Hello to everyone. Insulin is a fat storage hormone that's released when your blood glucose levels rise. When you have low blood sugar, there's very little insulin present in your body. On the other hand, when you have high blood sugar, insulin is running around like crazy storing excess glucose. It can't be held by your liver or your muscles. It stores it as fat when your blood sugar drops low enough. Your body release a hormone known as glucagon. Has the inverse effect of insulin. That's exactly why it's so important for burning body fat to lose belly fat. Following are the 5 very effective steps how to lose belly fat that you'll get rid of your belly fat. You will get a flat stomach in shortest amount of time. First step, lose belly fat fast. The first step in doing this is a process known as glycogenolysis, where glucagon stimulates the conversion of stored glycogen from the liver to glucose for your bloodstream. Glucagon will also promote the conversion of amino acids to glucose through a process known as gluconeogenesis. And the last and most important thing that it does for lose belly fat is that glucagon acts on adipose tissue to stimulate the breakdown of fat stores into the blood. So the question is, how do we decrease insulin levels? And how do we increase glucose on levels to prevent us from storing any more fat, and instead to help us start burning more fat? The first step is to follow a low-carb diet by eliminating all processed foods, simple carbohydrates, and sugary beverages, and in general limiting all carbs. Now, low-carb diet is not the only way that you can burn belly fat, but it's one of the fastest ways that you can lower your insulin levels. In order to lose belly fat, in one study, people with metabolic syndrome were randomized to receive either a low or a low-carb diet containing 1,500 calories. The insulin levels dropped by an average of 50% in the low-carb group and only 19% in the low-fat group. Even though they had the same amount of calories, carbohydrates or the insulin is eugenic from the most 3 macronutrients: protein, carbohydrates and fat. Now, in general, consuming fewer calories has consistently shown to increase insulin sensitivity and decrease insulin levels in overweight and obese people, regardless of the type of diet thing consumed. So again, even though it's not the only way to do it through a low-carb diet, a low-carb diet can help you deplete the glycogen in your liver and start burning fat faster. The first step is to follow a low-carb diet by eliminating all processed foods, simple carbohydrates, and sugary beverages, and in general limiting all carbs. Now, low-carb diet is not the only way that you can burn belly fat, but it's one of the fastest ways that you can lower your insulin levels. In order to lose belly fat, in one study, people with metabolic syndrome were randomized to receive either a low or a low-carb diet containing 1,500 calories. The insulin levels dropped by an average of 50% in the low-carb group and only 19% in the low-fat group. Even though they had the same amount of calories, carbohydrates are the most insulin eugenic out of the 3 macronutrients: protein, carbs and fats. Now, in general, consuming fewer calories has consistently shown to increase insulin sensitivity and decrease insulin levels in overweight and obese people, regardless of the type of diet thing consumed. So again, even though it's not the only way to do it through a low-carb diet, a low-carb diet can help you deplete the glycogen in your liver and start burning fat faster, to the point where it might have not even been so bad if you just didn't fast at all. So for that reason, fasting is not the answer for everyone. If you're the type of person that gets uncontrollably hungry when you fast and then you binge eat later, then you may be better off spreading out your meals into smaller portions throughout the entire day and just sticking to a low-carb diet. However, like I said, I would definitely give it a shot, because there's nothing out there that can lower your insulin levels the way that fasting time. Third step, lose belly fat. The third step is to begin exercising consistently and regularly. I always like to use the gas tank example that it runs off of as glycogen, and every time that you eat, you refill that gas tank just by breathing, being awake, standing, sitting, even sleeping. Your body has to use some energy from that gas tank, almost like a car that's running while parked. However, the amount of energy uses while parked is not that much at all. When you exercise, it's like drive in your car, and your car begins running off of more gas to get from point A to point B. Just like that, your body begins running off of more glucose to complete your workout. There's evidence that shows that specifically resistance training can help decrease insulin levels. It makes a lot of sense. Resistance training is a form of anaerobic training. Anaerobic training is known to use a lot more glucose, so it helps you empty out that tank a lot faster. However, we can't just write off aerobic training because it has its place with insulin as well. It has been shown to be very effective at increasing insulin sensitivity in people who are obese or have type 2 diabetes. So you should really try to do a combination of both aerobic and anaerobic exercise. The only catch is that it's a gradual process, which is why it's so important for you to be consistent with your exercising. If you're constantly skipping days and missing weeks, then the balance of how full your gas tank is from eating versus how empty it is from exercising won't be very balanced at all, and you're gonna have an overflowing gas tank. Because you're gonna just keep refilling a parked car. Point is trying to get at least 3 intense weight training sessions in every single week, and sprinkle in 1 or 2 sessions of aerobic exercise like interval training. Fourth step, lose belly fat. This is to avoid all forms of simple sugar and to stay away from refined carbohydrates. Now I know I already told you guys that a low-carb diet is one of the fastest ways to lower insulin levels. But you can still do it other ways, so here I want to be very specific about simple sugar. Because you guys don't have to have a low-carb diet's lower insulin levels, but you do have to have a low-sugar diet. Sugar is actually probably the most important foods to stay away from when you're trying to lower your insulin levels and lose belly fat. One study, overweight people who added high-sugar foods to their usual diet experienced a 22% increase in their fasting insulin levels. On the other hand, the other group in the study who instead of adding sugar added artificially sweetened foods experienced a 3% decrease in fasting insulin levels. Now, artificially sweetened foods present their own problems. But this study shows just how much habit sugar can wreak on our insulin levels. You have to cut out all soda, candy and desserts, and for some reason people are under the impression that the so-called health food sugar like honey or agave is better for you than regular sugar. The fruit too, however, is found in all these, when consumed in large quantities, will promote insulin resistance. It will ultimately drive insulin levels higher. Stay away from all forms of sugar. Fifth step, lose belly fat. Now, last but not least is tip number 5, which I know people will like the most only because it sounds like a hat. There are certain ingredients that you can eat and certain things that you can drink to help lower insulin levels. However, understand that they're only 8 supplemental tips. They are not the main driver of lowering your insulin levels. The other 4 tips that I mentioned are the main drivers. This is just there to help a little more after you're already doing the other 4 tips. Okay. The apple cider vinegar has been credited with preventing insulin and blood sugar spikes after eating, especially when taken with high-carb foods. So you can try to throw in 1 or 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar per day. Thanks for watching. You can comment and like, and don't forget to subscribe our channel. See you in the next video.